this is still broadcasting.
Okay, and we are back. Apologies there. My router crashed, and I need to address that. But
were you still talking the entire time?
I was. I actually just stopped talking. It was like 3 minutes, and I'm getting no response, and it's like...
You might have to restart the broadcast because no one can hear us still.
Yeah. So everybody that's listening in the app, if you back out of the... Well, if I'm talking now and they can't hear me, that doesn't make much sense either, does it? Rev, can you send out a tweet?
All right.
That'd be lovely. And just let them know that, if they refresh the page that they're on, or if they back out of the app and restart it, we'll be on showing up as live, and, we'll go through all that kind of stuff. But we were talking about Neil Lennon, obviously, and, the prospect of him leaving. And, I think that just to sort of reset the situation, I don't think that your question to me was the rolling 1-year contract. I find it mystifying that he's already established himself at Celtic as being capable of operating under minimal resources given to him and get the results, get minimally acceptable results. I think that he's probably done better than that. But, when you're talking about balance sheets and sustainability, he can get the results that you need to keep things going, right? So with that being said, and he's even made the comments that, the board can operate with these long-term visions and these 5-year plans, but he doesn't have that luxury. And when we
he said that in an interview a couple weeks ago.
And when we criticize him for not playing the kids and not, seeing what we have and all that sort of thing, I think the comment that he made that was most salient with that was, the fact that the board can have these long-term visions, but if I'm only 1 or 2 bad results away from getting the sack, so he's always consciously aware of the fact that he needs to constantly get these results in order to sustain his own position, to self-preserve, if you will. He doesn't have the luxury of being sort of being exploratory or bringing the kids in or, seeing how things work, in spite of the fact that we already have the league wrapped up. If let's say, for instance, we wrap up the league, obviously I don't believe it can happen on Wednesday now, but let's say we wrap up the league next week and then he plays a team of nothing but kids, for the rest of the season, and we lose, maybe 2 or 3 games in the bounce. Do you think that there's going to be the acceptance of that? I'm not so sure. Especially when we're talking about, dwindling attendances and how crucial that is to Celtic's bottom line. I don't think that he has the freedom. And I think that sort of freedom would be it would be more attainable if he did have a long-term contract. But I don't think that the powers that be necessarily want to give him that, because I don't think that the powers that be see him as the long-term manager of the club.
I don't see why they wouldn't. You're not going to find anyone else who bleeds in green and white.
I think that they disagree.
Oh, I don't think so. I have a friend of mine who lives in the area and knows a few people, and I know from conversations that he's had that's exactly what how he thinks. And plus, in other part
exactly how who thinks?
How Lenny thinks. Lenny is certainly that way.
I don't disagree with that.
Oh, okay, good, okay, yeah, because he looks so much more relaxed. I met him a couple years ago, and he looked uptight, and there was something you could tell there's something there. I saw pictures with him and a friend of mine when his kid he was playing football with a friend of his with his son, with Lenny's son. And you could just see, there's this relaxed look on his face. I think there's a big difference between, what went on around the time, what happened at Tynecastle and just after that to, to what's going on now. And how could you really want someone else from an emotional standpoint to run the club?
Oh, I don't think that they have that. I don't think, and I'm speaking about the board. So first off, if I came off Neil Lennon doesn't, have, this immense love for the club and bleed green and white and all that kind of stuff, that's not my intent at all. I 100% believe that.
Do you think the board doesn't think that?
I think that the board doesn't rate him as their long-term
Got it.
solution. I think that the board wouldn't shed a tear at all if, today Neil Lennon said, I'm resigning because of whatever reason. I think the board would be delighted, to be honest with you, because it would mean that they could expedite sort of their next level plan. And
behind closed doors.
Yeah, absolutely. I think behind closed doors, they don't rate him. I mean, think back to when he was hired. They had to take him on a dog and pony show in order to, sort of feel him out and get the approval of the supporters. I don't think they necessarily wanted him from the beginning. But, obviously there was a huge demand for him to step in at that time, which was the right decision to make at that time, as the results have clearly stated. But I don't think that they regard Neil Lennon as this irreplaceable entity. I really don't. I think they regard him as very replaceable in terms of being able to get these these sort of minimal expectations from a performance standpoint, which is what they're looking for.
Now, do you think Coyle could take people off the scrap heap like Lenny has had to?
Oh, I absolutely. They're not going to change, their mentality and the philosophy of how they buy players and how they're.
No, I'm saying, will he? I said, do you think he could get the same? Do you think he has the same mentality of trying to get the same result? Because, I mean, once you let me put it this way, flying first class is nice. I enjoy that. Flying in coach like I had to down to South Florida on Friday, I'm not a big fan of. Now. Flying private, like general aviation, is the fucking shit. Okay, and if you own a plane, you should never let your friends fly commercial. Friends don't let friends fly commercial. That's just how it is. Flying private is the way to go. Trust me. Being on your own G5 is nice.
Where are we going, Billy Big Boots? Come on.
Let me tell you something. The minute that you think that Owen Coyle, you take someone who's been able to do that. And I don't mean just in general fly privately. I mean be able to chat with, talk with, bring in, manage, and negotiate with players at a certain level financially. You don't want to head back towards Bo Richter's.
No.
And I think once you go to a certain level, you don't want to go back. And I can't see him having the time or patience to put up with someone long enough and have to play them at the top level of his team. I'm willing to bet you he probably, most managers in England would sit there, especially in the Premier and probably half of the Championship, would sit there and go, well, you know what? I could probably take Celtic and probably a third of that team would be my reserves and have that mentality when they get there. And then but they're not going to get the support to get the $5 and $6 and $7 million player.
Well, exactly.
And that may sound like a lot compared to us, but when he was at Bolton, he was signing those $5, $6, $7, $10 million guys.
Well, exactly. Exactly.
He's not going to get that chance now, and he fucked it up with them.
Well, exactly. But, there's a couple of things to take into account. First off, this isn't Owen Coyle just coming off of a successful Premier League stint. There's a reason why Owen Coyle is.
You mean successful two Premier League stints?
Whatever. Yeah. Okay. Let's just combine them all into one sort of a casserole. Okay. There's a reason why Owen Coyle is currently unemployed and has been for a significant period of time, relatively. In this coaching carousel that tends to happen down south, especially. There's a reason. He doesn't have that same level of gravitas and that same level of sort of consideration that he once did. So therefore, I mean, to get back to your analogy about flying private and flying commercial and first class or whatever, MC Hammer probably flew private, all the time when You Can't Touch This was playing on the radio. But 3 years after, he was lucky to get a seat in coach, because his standing completely changed. That's the reality of where Owen Coyle is in this whole carousel. It's being reported.
And how successful was he flying coach? Since he's had to fly coach, except for reality TV shows as a C-list, celebrity.
Well, I think your point is Owen Coyle coming in and having to operate under those parameters isn't going to have a successful outcome relative to our expectations, and I would agree with you. Is that essentially your point?
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying. That's once you go C-list, very few people make it back up to A-list.
And that's exactly why I'm terrified of the potential that Neil Lennon is going to leave and Owen Coyle will replace him. It's terrifying. But
do you like the guy up at Ross County?
I do.
Was it McAdams? Is it Derek McAdams?
It's Derek Adams.
Adams?
He had a huge rise to the SPL and then the Spiffle, and it's sort of stagnated from there. Now, granted, he has. I mean, you want to talk about Neil Lennon not having a whole lot to work with relatively. Totally, yeah. He's got absolutely jack shit to work with. I think he's done a decent job. I'm not so sure that this would be the job that he'd want. You have to take that into consideration. I mean, another name to throw out there is Jackie McNamara, a former Celtic player, and obviously, the preference is to have a former Celtic player as a manager. I mean, if you want to take logic and rationale and put it to the side and just look at history. I mean, we've only had, I believe, 2 managers of Celtic. Or no, I mean, I guess there's probably 4. But up until recently, well, I guess there hasn't been that many Celtic managers to begin with. But we'll put it this way: there are far more Celtic managers who are ex-players as compared to not being ex-players, and I don't see any situation where that is going to change.
I like the idea. I like the idea of McNamara because look at what he's done.
Well, look at your analogy. Look at your analogy. Jackie McNamara is, he's flown in cargo. Forget coach.
Yep, steerage.
And he's a manager that's on the ascent. He plays football the right way, in my opinion, from what I've heard.
Kids.
For developing kids. Yeah, I mean, look at their youth system and how they've been able to develop these kids. Quite rightly. I mean, it's very impressive, and I think he'd do a great job for Celtic. It might be a little early for him. My preference would be maybe in 2 to 3 years. To bring him in
after we lose a league to him. No, I'm looking. That would be exactly when that would happen.
But
I'm not saying I want to see that. I mean, I like his fieriness. I like that, and that's the reason why I like Lenny too.
Well, I think that he has an overall. The fact that
he's willing to do that, but then don't forget he also has the ability to do that.
Well, and I think
you're not expected to win everything or anything at Dundee United, so you're okay.
Well, but they do have expectations in terms of competing for one of those European spots and developing players, and certainly not I mean, obviously they have dates circled on their fixture list where they're going to need to go and put in a good performance and see progress. And I think that he's done that since he's come in at Dundee United. The whole profile of that club has really turned around and became something that's interesting and exciting to watch. Let's not kid ourselves. But I think that he has an overall vision, not just in terms of tactics and on the pitch, but also the way that they train. There is a system and there is a thought process that goes into how you train players on the training pitch. Nutrition is a huge element of how he prepares these kids and how he tends to gain an advantage. I mean, he's very comprehensive in the way that he approaches the game, and I think that's quite useful. It's something that I think is gaining a foothold more and more so. I mean, I think a lot of clubs say they do it, but I'm not so sure what the follow through necessarily is. But he has an understanding of how Celtic should play. What the Celtic way is, and I think that transfers through into his own mentality from a management standpoint. I think he'd be a good choice. The challenge though is, do we bring him in now? And let's listen. We're talking about opinions and in hypothetical worlds before anybody, flies off the handle and decides they want to abuse me on Twitter. In a hypothetical world, do we bring him in now and maybe risk him not being quite ready yet? Or do we say, okay, we'll wait a couple of years or 3 years or whatever, and then it's too late and he's moved on to one of the English clubs following in the footsteps of Stephen Presley? That's the challenge and the decision in a situation where, we're evaluating Jackie McNamara. Personally, I don't think that it's a good match or it's a good fit with the way that Peter Lawwell wants to run the club. And obviously there's some history between Jackie McNamara and Peter Lawwell that would stand in the way and would be something of a challenge. But I don't see it as a reasonable possibility that Jackie would be the manager of Celtic if Neil Lennon were to leave in the summer. I think it's, at this point, 95% certain that it would be Owen Coyle that'd be brought in to replace him.
Oh well. I mean, I'd still root for him. I'd hope you'd be right. I hope it worked.
I'm a Celtics
It'd be the
supporter.
same thing like Bo Richter. Oh God, not again! Please do well.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm a Celtics supporter, and whoever's going to manage them, I hope they do well, and they'll get my support. But when we're talking about hypothetical what if land, and what our thoughts are in terms of what would be best for the club going forward, he would be far from my first choice.
I'm with you.
All right, boys.
Anything else you want to talk about today?
I think that's it. I think we really touched on everything. Best again to Yampi, and hopefully we'll be welcoming him back next week. Boys, thanks so much for calling in. I think it was an interesting discussion today, and another great game, another clean sheet, and we're on 81 points at the moment, which compared to last year, and what our points total was last year, and where we are just now. I think there's something to be said for that. I mean, I think that our
and I don't want to see Neil leave either. By the way,
no, I don't either. I think that especially at this moment in time, I think that he is the best option that we have going forward in terms of progressing Celtic. But my only comment is, I will not be surprised if Neil Lennon is not the Celtic manager come the summer. So on that happy note,
on that bombshell.
Rev, anything else?
I'm good here.
To delight us with?
Nothing new this week, no.
All right.
Any new hugs or anything?
No? Is that like a one-shot deal? A woman rappelling from the roof of Red Bull Arena to hug you? I mean, they should make that a routine. Like
a weekly thing, yeah.
It should be like the huddle. Before every game, somebody rappels down and gives Rev a little cuddle.
I think if that happened, Rev would lose his spot with the Garden State Ultras. He wouldn't be allowed back anymore.
I think if that happens, Rev would lose his spot as
Mr. Rev,
as Mr. Rev, as Mr. Amy Dose. I think you'd be looking for a couch to sleep on. Well, thankfully, the likelihood of that happening is quite low. So you're in good shape, Rev.
Yes, I am.
Wait.
Like that. Like us buying from Boguson.
I see what you did there.
That was for Yampi. I know he's not here, and I know he wants to. He doesn't feel good unless we say his name at least once. From Boguson, for that matter. That's twice.
Who needs Finn Boguson when we have Thumb Boguson?
Hey, by the way, another show, and no call from Arizona.
Yeah, what is that?
Did you send the tweet out?
I did.
2 of them.
I did. Yeah.
We even had 2 emails today.
We even had one show shit the bed, and then we restarted another show, and still nothing. But I'm sure I'll get abuse for it.
Oh well, it's always fun.
It is very fun.
How could you give this up? Come on. How could anyone give this up? This is like the best way ever to just kick people in the eyes and then laugh at them and then say, okay, you can call anytime they want, and then they won't.
I could give you many, many reasons why. many.
Oh, wait. Before you go, let me tell you a quick story. So last on Wednesday, I took my son to training. And on the way back, the Champions League game had just gone off, and we were listening to Counterattack on the way home because it just ended up that the show was on.
Who was it? Harksey and Tony Miola?
It was Harksey and Miola.
Oh, God.
And Max is like, my son Max, he's 12. He looks at me, he goes, "Dad, they're horrible. What is this?"
That boy knows his stuff.
I'm just laughing the entire time because I'm dying. Because we listened to the game listened to the Champions League game on the way in, the Manchester United game, and he's like, "Oh, this, what was the final score?" And I told him, and they were just talking about it afterwards. He's like, "Come on, Dad, I know this stuff. This is crazy. Can't they tell me anything?" I'm like, "Hold on, let me show you something." So for the last 15 minutes of the ride home, I put on our little skit about what we were talking about with certain words bleeped out, and he laughed the entire time. So on Thursday, we get in the car after training. He's like, "You're not going to put on Counterattack, are you? I can't listen to them anymore."
It's true. Oh, well, Oscar scored 3 goals today. Yeah, he's a really good player.
He's really good.
Okay, so let's take our first caller. It's like, oh my God, what? Like, what?
And I love because they asked this guy. I mean, they asked people, well, what do you think? And go on and on. And it's like, God, you're just trying to fill time.
It's all it is. It's filling time with two ex-players and assuming that they're going to have something insightful to contribute. And they have absolutely nothing but arrogance about, when they played, it was X, Y, and Z. Well, you know what? When you played, we had no domestic league. And when we actually qualified for a World Cup, everybody, had an orgasm because it was like, wow, you guys actually did something.
So now my 12-year-old hates. I can't listen to Countercheck anymore.
Listen. Welcome to the wonderful world of well-informed people.
Yes.
Yes. I mean, anybody with half a brain can't listen to that crap. Good. See, I'm glad to hear that Max knows his stuff, and he's a critic of what is
Countercheck
and is not acceptable broadcasting. Not to say that this is acceptable broadcasting, but we're not collecting a check or anything. So feel free to request a refund at any time.
Or if you like it, send money to us, care of.
Yeah, now that could change. That could change.
Send your private jet.
Yeah, that could change things in a hurry. If you want to pay me, I can say whatever. I can be the most positive commentator you want. You could
the biggest lie I
ever hope to listen
that is the biggest lie. Listen, I hope there's not one person listening to this that honestly believes that one Graham Wilson can be bought for anything.
Peter Lawwell is just of sound mind. He has the best interests of the club, I think. I mean, there's just a roadmap for success in the future, and I think we should all get behind them and really support him.
Excuse me, that's my line.
And believe in him.
That's my line.
Honestly,
I know he's
just a charitable human being.
No, he is. He is very charitable. I mean, when it gets cold out, he invites people over to his driveway to warm up. What a great guy,
Wait a second. He wrote you a check too? He told me I was the only one.
Please.
Actually, it was small on marked bills, but either way.
Well, just the way you like them.
That's the way I like them. Exactly. Now I need to find a way to go ahead and get cancer so I can have the money put into my PayPal account.
Yeah, take it easy, Walter White.
I know. SaveWalterWhite.com. my new show I'm gorging on. Three episodes a night.
What, Breaking Bad?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I love it. I moved on from House of Cards. I watched House of Cards all the way up until the end, and then I went straight to Breaking Bad. I'm on season 4 already in like 2 weeks. I absolutely love that show.
Yeah, we did all of Breaking Bad, all 5 seasons in about 3 weeks, I want to say.
Is it wrong for me to like almost sort of like wish that it was Skylar that had cancer instead of him?
No.
I mean, I absolutely hate her. I hate her.
Oh, good God.
I hate her so much.
I know. Dear God, there are times I'm just like, I look at her and I just go, you're a cunt.
I was more thinking.
Even my wife, poor Stacy, she looks at me and she goes,
"What, you think she is too?"
No, she looks at me and she goes, "That woman's a cunt." I love it. Like, okay.
I was thinking die in a fire, but yeah, okay, whatever you want.
Yeah, she's bad. So here's the question: what's the next one to take large quantities of in?
When I'm done with Breaking Bad, I think I'm moving on to True Detective because everybody keeps talking about that, and I haven't watched any of it, so I'll have to figure out how to Netflix or whatever that from the beginning. I guess it's on HBO.
HBO Go, yeah.
Yeah.
I started The Office. That was my thing. I never watched an episode, and now I'm in like season 6 or 7, I think.
Oh, good for you.
There you go. True Detective. Got it.
You are.
Wow, thanks.
You are a motivated watcher of these pop television shows, Rev.
I've got Netflix. So...
You're burning through the seasons.
Yeah.
I don't know how you do. I can't watch that many. Maybe it's me. I mean, I get tired of listening to Skylar, and I just turn the shit off.
Oh I every so often, like every few episodes, it's like, oh, I can't watch this anymore, or like there's just too much suspense. It's like, oh my God, they're gonna kill him. They're gonna kill him. Oh my God, no, and then it's like I got to turn it off. It's just too much stress all at once. Speaking of
now
too much,
you're listening to Talking Bad with Chris Hartwick.
speaking of too much suspense, I'm about to pee my pants. So, boys, let's wrap this up. This is the beauty of not having any commercial breaks unless your router shits it. But thank you so much to both of you for calling in. Dr. J, great as always. Rev,
Take care.
fantastic stuff. Say goodbye.
Goodbye.
Goodbye, boys.
And goodbye for me. It is Shane McGowan. Shane McGowan has more teeth than Craig Burley. Hail, hail, and keep the faith. We'll talk to you soon.
The island, it is silent now, but the ghosts still haunt the waves. And a torch lights up a famished man who fortune could not save. Did you work upon the railroads? Did you ride the streets of crime? Were your dollars from the White House? Were they from the 5 and dime? Did the old songs start to cheer you? And did they still make you cry? Did you count the months and years? Or did your teardrops quickly dry? I know 15 was not to be on a coffin ship. I came here and I never even got so far that they could change my name. Thousands are sailing across the western ocean to a land of opportunity that some of them will never see. Fortune prevailing across the western ocean, their bellies full, their spirits free. They'll break the chains of poverty and they'll dance. In Manhattan's desert twilight, in the dead of afternoon, we stepped hand in hand on Broadway, like the first man on the moon. And a blackbird broke the silence as you whistled, it's so sweet. And then Brendan Behan's footsteps, I danced up and down the street. And we said goodnight to Broadway, giving it our best regards. Took our hats to Mr. Cohen, dear old Times Square's favorite bird. Then we raised a glass to JFK